Welcome back to the Global Crime News Network. And today we got a nice controversial topic for you. It's all I seem to do these days on my channel is talk about controversial topics, but here's another one nonetheless. Now today's topic is not so much controversial in itself, it's more what I have to say about today's topic that's probably going to spark a bit of controversy or get people giving me the side eye. Now I will try and remain as objective as I can when discussing this topic, but it is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. It's something that I feel is a key issue within criminology, and I've been wanting to discuss it for a while, but I haven't really had the opportunity or the platform. Now I do, so I'm going to let loose. So today we're going to be talking about the current state of criminology. And I use that word quite literally because I can see that criminology is on the verge of getting itself into a right old mess. It's on the verge of going down a path that it doesn't need to go down. And this is all because of a new and emerging field called queer criminology. So what is queer criminology then? Well, it's a field within criminology that attempts to disrupt traditional criminology and influence its practices. So that's one of its aims. Now I'm all about new perspectives on crime. I'm all about alternate views. Anybody who follows me knows that. I think sometimes disrupting tradition can be a good thing. I certainly do with my views and my theories. But I would like to think that whatever new perspective or theory that's coming in to disrupt criminology is doing it for the better. It's doing it for the good of criminology. It's to improve criminology. It's to aid crime researchers to give a new perspective. That's what I'm all about. So if a theory is steeped in logic and uses reason, doesn't go on emotion, uses good evidence, then yeah, let's disrupt things. If it's making it better, I'm all for it. But what I've noticed with queer criminology is a lot of it is not based in logic at all. It's actually disruptive for the sake of being disruptive. There's no shake up the system for the better. It seems like the theory is illogical and steeped in unreason. And one of the reasons I say this is because the theory attempts to put LGBTQ people at the heart, the center of criminological research. So to make LGBTQ people the absolute main focus of criminology. Now, I remember a time clearly when I was studying for my master's. During my time at university, I was in a class and we got a visit that day from some higher ups, some heads of department, some very important looking people who were going to be giving us a special talk during our class. Now this talk was about a debate, the debate I just told you about, whether the focus of criminology should be shifted over to LGBTQ people, to put them as a priority. Hear what I'm saying? To put them as a priority over everybody else. Now this is where the theory already begins to lose me. There's other reasons as well which we get into. Again, I'm trying to be as objective as I can, but we're already starting to see the illogical stuff creeping through. How can you put a specific set of people at the heart of criminological research? Crime research and crime is complex, varied. There's different reasons for it. Someone might kill because they're a psycho. Someone might kill because of peer pressure. Someone might not mean to kill. A 15-year-old kid might not mean to kill. He might be doing a wrestling move. We've seen kids jailed over that, over doing wrestling moves. And again, sentencing for minors, people that are under the age of 16, 15 years old. complex issues such as how to deal with this. This is what I'm thinking about as a criminologist. I'm not thinking about there's one specific set of people out there that deserve to be placed over everybody else. So that prospect alone, to me, was ludicrous, and I had to bite my tongue during the class. Now that I have my own website, I don't really have that problem. So I get to express, and I actually felt quite offended by that. I mean, we're hearing a lot today about, we can't hurt the feelings of transgender people and stuff like that, but no one gives consideration to the people that it might be bothering. Like, that was bothersome to me. Criminology is a passion of mine. So is criminological research. And like I said, I'm all about bringing new perspectives. I'm all about that. I'm all about shaking up the system, because I do think it needs to be shaken up. But we got to do it in the right way. I mean, to make a group of people the sole focus of crime research is ludicrous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I couldn't even believe that people that were supposed to be higher ups and bosses were actually presenting this debate in the class. I mean, of course not. But it's like everybody felt this guilt during the class. They felt like they should say yes to, yeah, it should be all about LGBTQ people because they got it the worst. I hear people all the time talking about, if you don't do things like this for LGBTQ people where we cater to their needs, it's causing genocide. Now that I find very offensive. And who's going to cater to my needs here? I find that very offensive, because there's a couple things that are being associated with the transgender community which I do not think is fair at all. Now the first one is what I just mentioned, genocide. They're saying, if we don't cater to our needs, there's going to be genocide. Overlooking the fact that there is genocide happening right now. There is genocide happening in Armenia, which is hardly getting any press coverage at all. The things that are happening over there are atrocious. People being driven out of their homes, people being killed, ancient churches and documents and sacred landmarks being destroyed. Parts of Armenia basically being taken over. This is going on right now. This has been going on for the last few years, and it hardly gets a mention. But yet on TV, all you see is what we're supposed to do for the trans movement. All you see on TV, everywhere you look, all in the media, is all about protecting the LGBTQ community. Where's the protection for Armenians? Do I really need to mention what's happening in Palestine? The atrocities that's been going on there for how long? I mean, people protest for it, but they're not changing laws or trying to take over fields such as criminology to get help for these people. They're not trying to dedicate a whole field to helping Armenians, to actually rescuing Palestinians, to actually cater to people who are actually going through this. None of that is going on. What they're doing is they're catering instead to global agendas, which is the woke movement, which is part of LGBTQ, climate change. These are the things that are being touted as, these are the things we should be looking at. And I don't agree with that. Now, another thing that really annoys me about this whole LGBTQ movement is that a lot of the time it gets lumped in with black historical issues. So you see a lot of gay and transgender people sometimes say, our struggle is the same. It's the exact same. It's the same as they start using black history. Some of them even go as far as using slavery to really make the point that, you should feel as sorry for them as you do for what happened for slavery. And I think that's ridiculous. And I will end that argument in a sentence here, and I will just say, look, you live in a country where you're free enough to wake up and decide what gender you want to be. You don't wake up and decide to be black. You don't choose to be black. So you have no business lumping your agenda in there with black history and all that other stuff. No, it doesn't belong there, and I find that offensive too. That's something that bothers me. You keep hearing this from a lot of people within the LGBTQ movement. You know, it's the same struggle. It's the same struggle. It's not the same struggle. And I think you're out of line for comparing it. Now, I told you at the start of this video, I'm going to try and be as objective as I can with this. It might not sound like it, but I'm trying. And I'm going to try and give the theory the benefit of the doubt at this point. So the theory claims to highlight the limited attention paid by the criminal justice system to LGBTQ people. So from that perspective, I can sort of get on board. If you're telling me there's a group of people out there that are being victimized or are victims of crime, if there's a way we can raise some awareness about that, I'm all for it. But you see, that's not the aim though, is it? The aim is to put LGBTQ people at the center or the heart of criminological research. I'm not on board anymore with this. Raising some attention to, yes. Making the main focus of, no. Queer criminology is supposed to share a common attitude with critical criminology. Critical criminology also challenges orthodox and traditional views and all the politics surrounding crime, which again, I'm all for. But again, it's the lack of logic in the way in which it challenges the system and the orthodox views and politics. It's illogical. If you think I'm being harsh by saying this, I want you to think about the fact that queer criminology encourages the abolition of the police force. This is a central theme of queer criminology, the abolition of the police force. Why? Because traditionally the police force haven't focused on LGBTQ people. There's been tensions between them in the past, there's been rifts, there's been incidents. They're saying basically the police don't like us, so we should get rid of them. When you break this down, this is what it is. Now, I haven't seen yet, and if someone has it, they can show it to me and I'll look at it, read it, and critique it, but I haven't seen no alternative to this. Can you imagine a world without the police force? As much shit as people talk about the police, they've got one of the worst jobs, everybody knows it. They've got one of the hardest jobs, at least. There's always going to be a time in your life when you're going to need police, and like I said, they offer no alternative. So what's the alternative here? Just no police. And what? What's the goal? You know what I mean? This it's absolutely ridiculous, and this is why I wanted to talk about it. Because if criminology goes down this road, it's very dangerous territory. When we start using emotion instead of rational thinking, and we're going down a very rocky path, if you know what I mean. To be honest with you, I've never heard such a ludicrous thing from any theory, and I've heard some ridiculous ones, but to get rid of the police because you don't like them or because they made you feel a certain way. I mean, where are we going here? And people are actually entertaining this in my uni and asking us questions. Do you think it should be made all about LGBT? No, I don't. I think crime is too complex and varied for that. And the fact that people are even asking this makes me question their mindset and whether they're just maybe following on to some kind of agenda, some kind of global agenda that's being pushed, because it has very much become a political issue. This whole woke LGBTQ movement is everywhere, and it's everywhere for a reason, because it's being pushed in your face all the time. Now we can look at how the whole pronoun thing disrupted society and caused problems there. I mean, we're looking at how by paying attention to one group, you're kind of dividing society, because you're ignoring the other ones. Like people like me are like, hang on a minute, like what's going on? Like this is not fair. It's not fair to me either. Why should I have to put up with this nonsense? And they're talking about getting rid of the police. It's coming into academia with the same ridiculous proposals, the same almost demands. It's like, if you don't do this, there's going to be trouble. Like we're way past the cancel culture thing. Everybody knows how that works now. But it's the same sort of thing here. They're bringing this into academia and bringing it into my beloved criminology, which I do not like. I can't believe there's a theory out there that actually advocates for the abolition of the police force with no alternative. And it's being touted as a credible theory. I mean, it really does boggle the mind. And it does show you how these global agendas really do have the power to transform, disrupt society, all aspects of it. You know, social media, TV, academia. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised that more academics are not speaking up about this. I think everybody wants to fold to the agenda. Everybody wants to keep the peace. Everybody wants to keep things sweet. They don't want to seem a certain way. They don't want to appear to be homophobic. They don't want to appear to be... Look, we need to start talking about things openly, and we need to not lose sight of logic. For all the wrongdoings that the police have done to black people, they never once advocate for the removal of the police for those things. But for this, they're advocating for the removal of the police. The LGBTQ people say they got a history with the police. Who has a more documented or more brutal, one-sided relationship with the police than black people? If there's any group that should be advocating for the removal of the police, it should be black people. And I'm not advocating for the removal of the police in any case. I'm just simply making the comparison that if anyone has the right, I don't really think it's the LGBTQ people or the community based on their relationship with the police. And I think there's nothing comparable there about the two histories. I think it's clear which one was worse. So that's all I'll say on that. The danger with theories like queer criminology is that they place power in the hands of, I guess you'll call them global elite, corporate elite, the deep state. The bottom line is they take power away from us and they keep placing it in the hands of these global elites. And the way these global elitists do this is they take a group, so for example the LGBTQ people, and they will overly victimize them. They will keep telling them they're victims till they attain that victim mentality. They then go after anybody who offends these people, even in the slightest. They will go after them mercilessly. You know, you can't say that. And this group of people keep running to the powers that be every time something offends them. So they start eroding civil liberties in the name of good. They're doing good because you're harming these people. This is how they're implementing all these hate speech laws at the moment. Straight out of 1984, people being arrested over tweets. And now we have a theory that's advocating for the removal of the police. So these people run to Big Brother, but Big Brother will shut whoever down for what they can't say. They're not allowed to say certain things. There you see how the attack forms on free speech. They start deleting free speech very slowly, what you can and can't say. And one thing I always ask people regarding this topic is, how long before this thing circles back round and the powers that be are now telling you what you can and can't say? Because it will happen. If this was really about fairness and equality, you don't place one group over anybody. That's the whole idea of equality in the first place, right? Everybody's equal. So the fact that this theory is even asking that question, it beggars, but like, what are you talking about? Like, of course not. But this is a thing that's being touted in today's society because I feel like they're trying to dumb us down a bit. You know what I mean? And they're attacking the academics, trying to dumb them down, making this seem like a rational theory. This is ridiculous. Anyway, as I said at the start of the video, I'm all for change, I'm all for alternate theories, opinions, different views, I'm all about that. But if it's done in the right way, not in ridiculous ways like this, and where you try and bring attention to one group of people, it's pointless. It's a waste of crime research. If we're going to examine something, give dedication and put a certain team on that to dedicate more time to that, whatever. But we're not going to take the whole focus off of all the other crimes that are going on in the world and place it solely on some people who are a bit upset because people won't say things or do things that they want them to do. Now, there's one final thing that I want advocates of this theory to think about. Criminology is all about understanding crime. To understand crime, you have to understand people's behavior. You have to recognize criminal behavior. You recognize patterns in behavior. That's what it's all about. That's what we're studying. We're trying to understand why people commit crime. Just like a scientist looks for patterns when he's doing research, so does a criminologist look for patterns in criminal behavior, around criminal behavior. And I've recognized a couple of patterns that I'd like to share with you guys today. So firstly, I talked about the pattern of Big Brother stepping in to protect people. This seems to be a pattern that has increased since COVID. But the significant factor in this is that every time they step in to protect you, they seem to ask you to give up some kind of civil liberty or freedom in order for them to do that. The second pattern I've noticed is that whenever the world is in some sort of crisis, or there's something going on that doesn't make sense, like this woke agenda, there'll always be some global elites like the ones I mentioned earlier that will step in with a solution. Just conveniently, they just happen to have the solution to the problem. When we had the great banking crisis in 2008, global company BlackRock stepped in to manage toxic assets. So they step in to manage the government's money because obviously the government can't do it properly. Off that crisis, BlackRock became the biggest global company in the world, dominating the economy, banking, media, politics, all of that. And just by coincidence, of course, who's been pushing the woke LGBTQ agenda the most globally? BlackRock. Even pressuring companies to do more woke commercials, otherwise you don't get our investments because we control the economy. During the pandemic, governments were in disarray, didn't know what to do. Who steps in? Bill Gates and a bunch of global NGOs, global companies, corporations. We have the solution. Oh, we just happen to have a vaccine that's been in development that we've been working on. You seem to need a vaccine right now. After the pandemic, economy's destroyed, the world in a state. What do we do now? Who do we look to? Who has the solution? Klaus Schwab, global elitist, and World Economic Forum member, of course, and founder, just happens to think that the COVID-19 pandemic was a great opportunity to reset society. And King Charles happens to agree with him. Just by chance. And who just recently just happened to be given a contract by the Labour Party to rebuild Britain in the wake of the COVID pandemic and all the impact on the economy. Who just happened to get that contract to rebuild Britain after this crisis? BlackRock. Amazing, isn't it? All just happens, doesn't it? All by chance. It's all just a coincidence, you see. These global elitists, whatever you want to call them, always seem to step in at the right time with a solution to your problem. Now, right now, advocates of queer criminology and the theory itself calls for the abolition of the police with no alternative, no solution. How much do you want to bet that the global elitists just happen to have a solution to the removal of the police force, maybe like a global police force or a police state or some new kind of police enforcement that will require you to give up your rights and freedoms in order for them to protect you. Something to think about.